Welcome to 24 Hours of Past, the Growing Our Community Edition. So this is the 21st session, so I'm really excited that you can join us now for Tomaž Kaštrun's session on understanding and visualizing data using R in SQL Server. So in case you haven't joined the previous sessions, this 24 Hours of Past event consists of 24 consecutive live webcasts delivered by up-and-coming speakers and experts from the past community. All sessions will be available next week on 24hoursofpast.com. My name is Julie Cosmano, a Senior Program Manager at Microsoft, and I have a few quick introduction slides before I hand over to Tomaž. So he will speak for 40 to 45 minutes, and then we'll move on to the Q&A where you can ask any questions you may have. And if you're having any issues, just type your questions into the question pane on the GoToWebinar control panel, and someone will assist you. In case you'd like to maximize your screen, use the Zoom button located on the top of the presentation window, and feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A field at any time. The questions pane is located on the right side of your screen. Once we get into the Q&A portion of the session, I'll read off your questions to the speaker. And since all attendees are muted, you will need to submit questions by typing in the Q&A field. Note that there will be a short evaluation at the end of the session, so we would really appreciate if you could provide your feedback then. And this survey will actually show up on your screen at the end of the session. Next, I'd like to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsors, Microsoft, Cisco, and Dell Software. In addition, I'd also like to thank the support sponsors for this event, SQL Sentry, HP, and SolarWinds. The staging of 24 Hours of Past would not be possible without their support and dedication, and they are the reason this event is available free of charge. Now, I'd like to bring your attention to the upcoming PAST Summit. So it's going to take place in Seattle, Washington from October 27th to the 30th. And this year it will feature over 200 sessions with world-class SQL Server experts. Planned and presented by the SQL Server community for the SQL Server community, PAST Summit is single-handedly the largest gathering of SQL Server and BI professionals. With over 5,000 attendees from all over the world, PAST Summit is also a great place to network and meet face-to-face with experts, peers, and MVPs. More importantly, PAST Summit delivers on providing you with the answers to your SQL Server issues, along with the knowledge, strategies, and skills you need to stay ahead of the curve. If you'd like to get $150 off, please contact your local chapter for a discount code. And optimize your savings by registering before the end of Sunday, July 12th. To find out more, please visit PAST Summit website, which is www.pastsummit.com. And now, please allow me to present the speaker of the hour, Tomaž Kaštrun, who is, I think, based in Slovenia. I think he's a bit all over the place, mainly in Europe. Obviously, he's a coffee lover. That's why he's pretty good in R and coding, analytics, and statistics. So I'll leave the session with Tomaž now.
Thank you, Julie. I hope everybody can hear me. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to attendees all over the world. I am located currently in Slovenia, Ljubljana, which makes us 10 a.m. and it's drinking coffee time. And for those who are falling asleep, please don't do that. Drink another coffee or have a stretch of the legs. So quick introduction. Been working with the SQL Server and data analysis for 10-15 years. Currently I'm working at a Spar retail. I like coffee, as Julie said. I'm a fixie bike junkie. On the right hand side of the screen you will find my tweet handle, my email address in case you want to contact me. So let's start off. So today I'll be talking about a data using R in SQL Server in terms of understanding and visualizing the data. And we will deep dive into the framework which enables us or you how to use the R in SQL Server. So just a quick overview of today's session agenda. First of all, I will make a quick and brief introduction to R. Then I will explain the framework, how to connect R to SQL Server using the ODBC R library. Then we will go through the typical classical statistical methods in terms of running some statistics on the data stored in your SQL Server, and then we will go through the output of the R and how to bring it into the strongest of them all reporting services for the purposes of adding extra information to your reports, making them beautiful for the management, etc., etc. And at the end, yes, visualizing the data, what is available in R, and what we can do with transactional data. If you have any questions, please post them, and we will discuss at the end section. So first of all, the data. It is a recycling process. So data that is reside in your system is actually available to you anytime, and people usually, from my experiences of what I've seen, are just tend to go for new data, for new software, instead of usually focusing on what's available there and how to prepare the data for further analysis, what to do with the data. So in this session, I'll just try to give you this overview of the framework, what can be done with the data, what can be done with the R, and how to make your life a bit easier, not with the framework itself and installation, but to understand the data. So analyzing the data is really a vicious circle. In my opinion, it's not. It's just the right thing to do when you do the data analysis and what to do with the results. And how do you feel when doing this? Well, usually you can experience some pain because the immediate results might not be satisfying, and then you're continuing doing this circle, which is the data preparation, data testing, analysis, and then at the end making the business decisions. And what is the non-recycling process in comparison to recycling processes? Effectively know what the business is, so usually knowing what the business's needs are is, in my opinion, always the hardest thing. Understanding the people from business, not that they are in comparison to data statisticians or data scientists, there's something wrong with them, definitely not, don't get me wrong, but just focusing on that, it's from time to time can be a vicious thing. So knowing your goal, and when you know your goal, define your goal, sign it off, and then you will know immediately to do the results with the data and how to achieve the results with your data. So currently, if I go a little bit more into the statistics, what is available in SQL Server? So we all know that exploring and understanding the data, especially when you know your business processes, is the must thing to do, especially if you're working as a BI, or if you're a data statistician, that is usually have to have knowledge in SQL Server and statistics and any other program like R, SAS, or SPSS, or Mathematica, or any other kinds of flavors that you are used to dealing with. So what is currently available in SQL Server are built-in functions, which are mathematical functions, aggregated functions, ranking functions, and stream functions, which are very good in terms of bringing on the query level anything which is available. So let's say I want to have, let's say I have the sales order and I want to see the maximum and the minimum per customer and how much the customer spent in period of 1 month. You can run all these aggregated functions. You can do also the ranking. So I want to see the first percentile of the customers who spend the most, or I can do some, string functions in terms of if I have text, or I can do text analysis. And I can even combine those functions. Let's say I can do some aggregate functions, and I can join them with some mathematical functions to derive the new functions. Like I have mean, but I don't have median, so I can calculate the median. So for those who are more into the statistical world, you can combine any of these built-in functions and just create new one. On the other hand, what is not directly available in Transact SQL is available in analysis and integration services. So integration services have a couple of modules which are pretty, I'm not going to say fancy, but very useful in terms of data profiling, in terms of anything, for instance, if you want to do some text analysis or fuzzy algorithm, which is a pretty powerful algorithm which can enable you to do anything with the text. And of course, analysis services, on the other hand, are powerful tool in terms of data mining, in terms of OLAP. So anything you want to do regarding that, it's already available there. But is this really enough? Sometimes the testing the transactional data might be also problematic. Just imagine finding the outliers and dealing with the outliers or the missing values. There are a couple of ways to do it. Integration services do provide a couple of methods, but sometimes you just come up to this point where you want to find the outliers in a transactional data, or let's say you're doing recency frequency monetary analysis and you have a lot of outliers and they are just skewing your results, so you have to do something with that. So what are you going to do? Is this really enough in case when you have specific and quite simple statistical problems? And more tests and functions are also the problem when dealing with the data quality services. So yes, of course, quality services are also awesome part of the SQL Server, but sometimes it just, you just have to have this statistical background, and you will see that, it might be that, you ran out of the tools. And also, as I said previously, statistical functions can also be constructed in terms of mean, median, modus, t-test, chi-square, variance, etc., etc. I think variance is also available, but t-test and just all those bivariate, I'm not going to say multivariate statistical methods are also can be constructed based on the functions, built-in functions like statistical and aggregate functions. But then the problem arises, and this problem is that all these functions will grow, the Transact SQL will grow when you start writing these functions, Maybe it's a bivariate or multivariate statistics. You can just imagine running a t-square t-test or chi-square test and just building it on your own from Transact SQL, and you will see that your code will just be multiplying with each step you want to add in this algorithm. So this is one problem, and the other problem is that the results might be user unfriendly in terms of data visualization, in terms of any tests that you need to run on top of the statistical functions that you want to run. So sometimes it's just this vagueness that you don't know where to go, what to do, etc., etc. So in this case, yeah, I always ask myself, is it really enough, or can there be more? And what about Excel? Well, Excel is very, very, very powerful tool. And also all the derivatives from Excel, if you go to Power Pivot, Power View, Power Query, these are extremely great and extremely awesome tools, very powerful tools. But, none of these tools will tell you that you are doing something wrong. For instance, imagine the following sample right here, which I put it a very straightforward, quite, I'm not going to say quote unquote stupid, but yeah, just to give you the idea. Let's say I have two customers. One is gender 1, 2, which means male and female, and one is age 14 and the other one is age 75. And of course, somebody says, okay, I want to see the average of age, and you calculate, and the average is 44, which is off in both cases. So is it really okay then that I'm doing that, you know? Is it really average? Does it really say something? Even if I do the standard deviation, I will definitely have, you know, vague ideas. And especially, you know, I've seen people running averages on gender, you know, and again, you still need to have some statistical background in case, so that you know that it is allowed to do that, but it's utterly wrong to calculate and say, yeah, the average gender is 1.5. So in this case, yeah, it's wrong. So none of the programs or the tools will tell you that you are making a mistake. But on the other hand, you know, analyses are not dangerous, and algorithms or statistical algorithms are also not stupid. It's just the way you interpret the data, and especially in the last step, bringing and giving the statistical analysis to business on which they will decide upon. This is the problem. So also Excel is a powerful, and any other derivation of Excel are powerful tools, but then you always need to have somebody who will say, don't do that, you know, it's wrong, or you just don't do that, you know. So in this way, yeah, I always say, always have, you know, peer-to-peer review when you're doing something like that. So about the framework. So why R and SQL? Who is using it? What is it doing? When and where? First of all, I'm just going to go briefly to, so why R and SQL? Because a year, 2 years ago, I think I found a problem that constantly running and writing and doing some predictions in Transact SQL was a problem. So I decided to integrate it with R to have on-the-fly running statistics of my data. So in terms of statistical frequency, statistical descriptive statistics, any B or multivariate tests. So I can do on hand in Management Studio, Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, integrating with R and doing it. So it is intended, the framework is intended for people working with the data. Maybe they are BI developers, maybe they are DBAs, but anyways, those who are running frequent Transact SQL queries and are working with quite huge amount of data, especially delivering the results to the business. Where, when, and what they're doing, as I said, where, you know, it doesn't really matter when, you know, when the decisions needs to be done and what. So as I said, you know, they will be running statistical analysis. So brief introduction to R. R is a open source language and environment for statistical computing and doing brilliant graphics. It's free of charge. It's open source, and it has a really strong community, good documentations, and you can download it from HTTP CRUN R Studio, the studio, and R engine from CRUN.com. Oh, it's not on the slide, sorry. I'll just go briefly to how the R Studio looks like. I'm just going to switch to my my program. So this is R Studio. This is where I write R code. I get the results and the console at the bottom, and I have on the right-hand side the environment, variables, and all the libraries that I need. And I'm not going to go into the details of writing R code. I'll just focus on the framework. So going back to the deck. Okay, sorry. Okay, so about the framework. To have the framework installed on your computer, you have to have R client first and all the available R libraries. On the other hand, you have to have SQL Server installed, and this means that you have to have configured correctly the XP command shell and some other all the automatic procedures. Then you also have to have access to your local folder with read and write permissions, and of course you need to have the defined goal. So what are you going to do with the data, and which statistical approaches are the appropriate ones. So, and the process flow about this framework and the procedure that I will deep dive immediately after this or the next slide is that first of all you generate the transact SQL, you send it to the R engine. R engine does all the R statistics needed, and then it returns it to the SQL Server management studio in this case, or it can do a file system, and you can do then much more with that. So you can visualize it in reporting services, or you can also expose it to analysis services. In this case, R is generated on the fly in this case, and then pushed to the R engine, and R engine returns the results plus the runtime results. In this case, it means what the R engine did and what was the code presented to R engine. So let's quickly go through the demo, through the code, how to make the configuration. I will explain how the procedure is working, what is the structure of this procedure. We will go through what all the parameters need to be checked in, where the R script is generated, how we can modify the script, and then printing the results, and at the end, as I said, quote unquote, going fancy, meaning how can we expose the results or push the results to analysis, to reporting services. So I will switch to my management studio. In this case, I'm using the AdventureWorks. So just because of the sake of simplicity. First of all, let's go through. This is my procedure. What the procedure does is it takes all. Sorry, I'm just gonna go. The procedure is structured that it has parameters. So what is the target table is my input table results, the variables from these input tables, which statistics I want to run, and then some technical parameters like the server name, the database name, the working directory, and the R path. So this means where I have my R engine installed. So first of all, the procedure, what it does, it goes through the table of statistics. So in this table of statistics is fully modifiable. You can write your own code. So for those who are keen to work on the R code, you can see some immediate R code snippets in this column, and this is fully extendable. You can just continue writing whatever you want. For the sake of this demo, I've just prepared some simple statistics like the frequency tables, the cross tables, the chi-square, and then doing some cross tabulation. And for the end, I've decided to use the word cloud just to show you how you can easily implement the results to the reporting services. So first of all, as I said, I have the R needs to have some sort of checkups if everything exists. So first of all, I will define the working directory and then see if there are any files available or if there are any already existing files that those needs to be deleted. So in this case, I'm checking if the working directory is existing. If not, then it creates or just returns an error. Then I check my input variables. So as I said, the target table and the statistics. Just go briefly back to this table. So so I have the target table and the variables and statistics. So both three are somehow heavily interconnected. So the target table being the input data, variables being the variables or the columns for this target table or my input data, and then running the statistics. So in this case, the procedure must have some sort of checkups to see if everything works correctly. So imagine that I have input data, and then let's say that I have table orders, and then I have two columns saying one is average and the other is total amount of sales, and I want to run statistics on I don't know, gender, and then the procedure, what procedure does is just checks if the gender is also available in the input data set. And in case there is no gender, it will return an error saying, sorry, you don't have this variable available in your input data, hence I cannot continue. So this set of checkups will just do that. And then it also checks for the technical part, whether the working directory is available, R is available, and the server and database name actually exists. So this is pretty straightforward. For the R, when you install R, you just install it on your server, and then with the when you run this procedure, you just define the path to the R. Why the path? I will go in the next steps. I will show you the problems with R, those who are working with R. The problem with R is, you can have multiple versions of one library defined for different versions of R engine. So currently 3.2.1 R engine is available, but as you will see, for those who are working with R, there are some other there are a lot of libraries which were created for previous versions of R and are not supported in the latest versions of R. And that's why I have, for instance, just on my computer, I have 3 versions of R installed, so I can, jiggle around with different version of libraries in R, so, just to have everything working. So this is, in this case, when you define the R version or the path to your R engine, it's really neat and easily defined, because then you can have multiple versions of this procedure, this framework, each pointing to a different version of R, or each pointing to a different version of library within different engine, R engine. So it makes it kind of easier and more modifiable in terms of data export and in terms of data visualization. So in this case, I'm just checking whether the R is existing at this file path or not, and then if not, as I said, it will continue to just keep you saying no, it doesn't exist. And then also checking whether the variables do exist in my input set, and that's it. So the procedure then, what it does, first of all, it checks whether everything is available. If it's not available, it just returns you an error. And then what it does, it just start merging the R code in your SQL Server environment. So in this case, I am taking the statistics from my, just going back, from my table of statistics, So if I say, I want to have, cross tabulations, the procedure will concatenate or merge some different portions of text, and then at the end, based on my input parameter of statistics, it will just take this part and fill it with different variables, and that's it. In case of, for instance, in case of this word cloud, is just a bunch of code, and there is no additional, as you can see, there is an empty column. There is no additional parameter setting. It's just, what are my input data, and then based on that, I will generate word cloud. So what I'm trying to say is this table of statistics is pretty open to your imagination, to your ideas or to your needs. So it can be modifiable, or you can just copy paste a portion of the code in this procedure, this framework, and then just run it in your analysis service, reporting services. So going back where I stopped. So as you can see, I'm just checking whether the variables are available. I'm just building up the query from the target table and the variables. And since, as I said, for the word cloud, I just copy pasted the code right here. This is for the word cloud. I'm running some, text mining libraries in behind, and the library for the word cloud. And in this part, I didn't want to have anything predefined. I'm just saying check if my work directory is working, and then concatenate or insert my query statement, which was created prior in this step. And that's about it. Okay, so then I will get all the statistics. In case I have more than one variable defined in my table statistics, it generates an additional while loop and just going through each of the variable. And let's imagine that I have input data of sales again, and I want to check if there is any statistical significance between the gender and the region in terms of the amount of number of purchases in my customer table. And in this case, I want to check whether there is any direct correlation between the number of purchases and gender, and again, number of purchases and region. So in this case, I'm using 2 or let's say 3 variables, and what it does, this step will just iterate through the list of variables and just creating the R code saying, okay, I want to run this t-test or chi-square test based on all 2 or 3 variables. So it's pretty straightforward and very much modifiable, and it just presents the framework will just help you deal with that. Of course, as I said in on previous slides, you can run the Transact SQL code for that, but imagine that you want to do some cross tabulations between gender and number of orders on your input data, and then somebody says, okay, now let's calculate the percentage. In R, it's pretty straightforward. You just define, one additional word in your R code, whereas in Transact SQL you would need to run then running some cumulatives, and then doing the casting of the data, and etc. to have the percentage presented. And in R, it's pretty much straightforward. So that's why all these sections of the code in this framework are pre-prepared for the usage and easier usage, so you can just copy paste the blocks of code and then just modify it to the usage. Okay, and what it does in step 5, it just concatenates in this step where it just lists all the statistics. It ended, and then the R code needs to close the connection to the SQL Server engine, and then the R code is just doing itself, what it needs to do. So in this case, as you can see, it's again, it's an R code. It says close connection, and that's it. Going then, when the code is concatenated, then yeah, this is the part where I'm running the statement in my command shell, and saying, yeah, I want to run this against the R engine. So, this is the R code where my R code is temporarily stored, and these are the switches for R engine running. So this is prepared, and then I call R engine. This is the code for R engine, and R engine is just running the code presented, and that's it. And in the last part, printing back the results to the Management Studio, or just storing the data into the file, which can be later used for purposes in visualization in reporting services, is the last step. So in this case, I'm printing the results back to Management Studio. We will see that briefly, using the SPOA methods, or I can just save, like here, the results in the JPEG. So in this case, it will be word cloud, storing it and then exposing it to reporting services. And in the last part, I just say, okay, clean all the results, drop all the tables, close all the connections, and that's about it. Okay, now that we've covered this part of the code, yeah, I forgot at the beginning, sorry. I mentioned what needs to be switched on when you start using this. So you have to have the XP command shell turned on and the only automation procedures turned on. Once you have this, you can run the whole procedure for this framework, and then you are set to work with this procedure. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create a sample table, which will be in AdventureWorks, and I will take the person demographics, I'll take the gender, total number of children, number of cars owned, and I will create some view. So these are my rows that I've generated. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run this. And this is how I run my framework through this procedure. So I'm defining the target table. In this case, it's this view I've just generated. I'm interested in the variable or the column total children. I'm running the statistics for. So the statistics for is, as I've said at the beginning, statistics for is chi-square test. Just using one variable for this chi-square test. And then, all the technical stuff, my server name, which corresponds, this server name corresponds to this thing here, the database name, and working directory, which, I can show it to you. I have it right here. So you can see this is my working directory, which there is, exposed and prepared for dropping the temporary data or storing the results or JPEGs or whatever. And this is my R engine. As I said, for this particular case, I'm using R engine 3.0.3, but as I said, I have a couple of different flavors or versions of R installed on my machine computer just for the sake of the different libraries being available, and that's it. So when I run this, just quickly, I get the results, immediate results back to my Management Studio. So in this case, I'm getting the statistics. So this is what it's read from my table of statistics. So this is the label, sorry, this is the HISCR test, which is then read right here. And then this is the portion of the results being printed from our engine to the file. So remember when I said that I'm using my working directory? So this is where the engine is dropping off all the files. So these are those two. So my test is the R code. Just a second, I'm just going to open in the viewer so you can see how does it look. Okay, so this is the R code generated from this procedure that we went through, and this is the effectively the R code, which I can copy paste it now to my R Studio, and I will get the same results. Out of all the transacted SQL, this is how it comes out. And this is the output, and this is just a technical output saying, okay, this is the procedure time, the CPU time, elapsed time, and how many, what has been done, and that's it. Of course, I get the immediate warning messages from R back to this file, and that's why it's also great when you debug this or when you try to troubleshoot this, always look for those files. So just for the sake of tests, I can now open my R Studio. I can say, okay, I'm going to open a new script, and I can copy paste it, and I will get the same results. But as I said, the output will be saved in the file, so which I don't want. I'll just say, okay, I'm just going to run this, and it should be, sorry, I need to run this as well. Something like that. So yeah, so this is the result I get from, and it's effectively the same result as I got in my management studio. So the same numbers, the same information, and the same as well, the same warnings. I think, yeah, also the warnings are here in the output, whereas they have been generated separately. Okay, so this is the first part where I've just shown how you want to do, how you want to use this. Now going back to the deck, just a second. Okay, so now imagine that you want to use the reporting services. So imagine that you have a report prepared where you just show your data, like in case of A. So in case of A, I have, just name of the products, and then at the end, count of these products. So let's say I have this product, and then there is a 712 products. In case of B, this is, a little more advanced. I can run some statistics on it. So in this case, I'm counting the occurrences of this product. It's also fine, but, sometimes reading the table and reading such kind of data is maybe not enough. And in case of C, what I did was with the use of this framework, I've prepared a word cloud where I can immediately see, for instance, which words are corresponding or which words are more frequent than the other words. Or so just imagine having the name of the product here, and instead of looking through the frequency tables, you can just see the word clouds, and immediately you will see and you will understand, which products are coming out more frequently in relation to the others. So yeah, which would you use and where do you see yourself? Of course, everybody would, in my opinion, go from the B to C or C to B version. So I'll just continue with the deck now, and then I'll switch to demo. So using reporting services, and for instance, ggplot2 library in R is also very strong and very powerful. You can do, lots of things. Just exploring the data with both with this powerful library in R is just making, beautiful diagrams and visualizing the data in terms that not even Excel can do it, and that's why I said at the beginning that R is, in my opinion, also a very powerful tool for data visualization and data graphics. It has very high level of attention to details, where you can have different fonts, different colors. You can play with the fonts. You can download additional fonts. I'll just show you a quick example later on. You can have overlapping graphs with text. You can create heat maps. You can create matrices. You can create block of matrices representing, different kind of data. And as I said also at the beginning, the strong community for R is also there. Just go to GitHub and find a lot of dev extensions, and you will come to immediate results to see what's available and what can be done. And of course, just making this R data visualization just gives you the endless possibilities. It can run and it gives you the runtime capabilities in reporting services, and also, just imagine with R, and you can start storing the data from your social media world into the SQL Server engine, and then on top of that, build beautiful graphs or come to a beautiful conclusions, like I did for last year PAS Summit 2014, which took place in Seattle. I wasn't there, but unfortunately I wasn't there, but I was fortunate to have Twitter account, and with the usage of my Twitter, R library and SQL Server, I managed to store all the tweets, and I did a lot of word clouds based on the days, which were, highly beautiful. I've seen what people were doing, but what I'm trying to say is, just extending the R possibilities, I could create these two graphs, for instance, putting it into the reporting services and saying, okay, so on the right-hand side you have a sentiment map. Yes, I did a sentiment map based on the Twitter and all the tweets, which just gave me an overlook of the PAS Summit. Of course, I was quite surprised at the end when I see that people were angry or sad, because yes, you shouldn't expect those kind of feelings and emotions on such a beautiful event. But then I've seen that I've did a backward compatibility with my tweets, and I've seen that people were basically complaining about, hard beds in hotels, faucets dripping, or cold pizzas being delivered and stuff like that. So it was quite a funny thing to do. And yes, there were endless possibilities what to do with the tweets. And as I said, you can do much, much more with the usage of this. Now, just quickly going to my demo, I'll just go to my Visual Studio. So this is my Visual Studio, and this is my reporting. So what I did was, you can also create word cloud in R, and this is my, this is a common reporting services where you can have a lot of reports, and this is running now this, and on the fly the report goes from SQL Server, grabs the data, pushing it to the R engine. R engine does what it does best, and then returns the result to report. And immediately when the report is finished, we will see, okay, it's loading now. You will see what kind of code it has been set to this. Okay, so it's hard to see. I'm just gonna. So this is the how it does. It creates a word cloud. I'm sorry, it's a bit small. But again, as I said, there is a way to see. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is what I wanted to say. So this was how it went. Our engine returned the file, and this was the code being generated. Sorry, this wasn't the right code. So this is my code. sorry, getting a bit lost. And the word cloud being generated. So this is the word cloud being generated on the fly, sorry, right here. So this is the timestamp, which is corresponding to my local time, and the R code and the output of the R code. So it's pretty straightforward. So just quickly go through. You say where you want to have your file stored, what is the name of this, and then you can have your code saying, okay, I'm running this stored procedure, and that's it. Of course, you can also do some other data visualization. I also have prepared the data visualization with library waffle, but apparently I have one slide deck, and then I'll have to slowly make a conclusion. So the pros and cons of this R visualization, as I said, it is a great, powerful tool. The integration is outstanding. With the new version of SQL Server 2016, there will be a great support for the R being embedded in the SQL Server engine. This will be just, I think today there is a CTP 2.1 being delivered. I'm curious what the news is about that. But the problem is, with the R, there is a lot of different libraries, different versions of R, and you never know which is compatible, compliable with the R engine and which is not. So there might be a problem with that. Otherwise, yeah, think about it, whether you want to implement it in your company environment. It is good for a smaller businesses, especially. The problem is, because the R is constantly growing and the libraries are being constantly developed. But on the other hand, having more and more libraries, the old libraries are not being supported any longer. And of course, there is a memory limitation and also the security issues. Running XP command shell might not be the best way to run your code. And that's about it. So, questions, please.
Thanks so much for the presentation. That was great. We do have a couple of questions. The first one is to do with if you have seen any, or if you know of or seen any examples or use cases of R and BI tools in an Office 365 environment.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that. It's quite easy to integrate, and I would also recommend that you, for the attendee who posted the question, to start using it. Yes, it just leverages the possibilities of R and Excel, and it is beautiful. But sometimes, you might have some issues in terms of the speed and the processes. But otherwise, yes, I've seen, and we've also done it in Excel as well. Yes. Thank you.
Excellent. And okay, so we do have questions on sharing the scripts that you have shown. Is it possible to download that from your website, or is there a better place to obtain that script from?
Yeah, so the code is available online. I'm going to post it on my blog, which was the URL was presented at the beginning. I'm also writing couple of articles right now on this visualization, where I will definitely have couple more examples being shown, what to do in case when something goes wrong, how to troubleshoot, etc., etc. And definitely the code will be upgraded as well. But otherwise, the code is available online. If you can just Google it, you will find it. Otherwise, it's also on one of the SQL Server sites available, where I already posted a couple of blogs, posts and articles. So everything is available. If you need any additional help, please contact me. I will be willing to help you. It will be in order to help. Yeah.
Okay, and I've just pasted Tomaž's WordPress site on the chat window. I think it should come up on the chat window or questions window in case you want to visit that.
I will.
We did have a question. Pardon?
I will, after this session, I will upload also the code on my blog, so you can have it also there, since Julie already posted the URL. So yeah, I will upload the code on my blog. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think let's just wait for a few more seconds in case there are any other questions. Okay, well, I think that should wrap it up. That was a great session. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank Tomaž for his time and his expertise, obviously, in this space. And Tomaž, would you mind just going through the next slide?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No problem. So in case anyone else want to follow the what's happening with 24 Hours of Pars, please follow the Twitter handle as shown on the screen, and also use the hashtag so that that you can have a look at what's happening around 24 Hours of Pars. And next, I would also like to thank our sponsors, Microsoft, Cisco, and Dell Software, and our supporting sponsors, SQL Sentry and HP and SolarWinds as well. So we hope you enjoyed this session as much as we did. And next coming up is Curious Cases of Availability Groups with Murilo Miranda. So I hope you all have a great 24 Hours of Pars, and hopefully see you at Summit. Thanks, Tomaž.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, all the attendees. And yeah, hope we'll see you around and on Pars Summit. Cheers. Bye.